Hello, everybody, and welcome to Overtime. My name is Connor Durkin, and we are very happy to be bringing Overtime back for its second year after such a long summer. Today, to kick off our first episode of the year, we have Bears wide receiver coach Mike Furrey coming in to answer a few questions. So without further ado, let's get right into it. Hello, and welcome back to Overtime. My name is Connor Durkin. Alongside me today is Michaela Furrey. Today, we are honored to have Bears wide receiver coach Mike Furrey with us. Before we can get to Coach Furrey, though, we want to take a few moments to explain how lucky we are to have him as a guest and what we will try to do each time we can have him join us. Michaela, would you like to explain a little more about that?
Yeah, thanks, Connor. So, Coach Furrey is my dad, and football has been a big part of my life since I was born. What it took for my dad to play in the position that he played and coach in the position that he coaches now did not just happen overnight. Trust me, it didn't. So many athletes like my father have amazing stories of perseverance, and our hope is to share those stories with you guys.
Yeah, and in times like these, it's always good to have a story like this to rally around. So without further ado, Coach, thank you for joining us today.
Yeah, thanks for inviting me.
So, Coach, if you don't mind, take us back to the beginning, growing up, doing what you love, and playing football in Hilliard, Ohio.
Yeah, it was, I grew up a huge basketball, baseball fan. I didn't really ever think about getting involved in football, but my freshman year in high school, I had a couple buddies of mine that came to my house and drug me out of my house to take me to go do some conditioning. And I loved conditioning and I loved working. And so it somehow ended up being a football practice, and I kept staying around and ended up playing football.
So, Coach, I got a quick question. Have you ever heard of Youngstown, Ohio?
I have. I've played in Youngstown,
Oh,
Ohio.
really? Okay, that's where my dad grew up
Yep.
So,
I've played in the Igloo.
oh, really?
Yeah,
Youngstown State.
that's right.
Yeah, that's cool. So you were in high school state runner-up for Mr. Ohio football, right?
I was to Charles Woodson.
Yeah, but you still didn't get a D1 scholarship. So tell me what led you to coming to Ohio State your first year?
Connor, the opportunity that I had in high school just to, continuing to play the game of football, my skills developed, year in and year out. And so I got to the point my senior year where I felt like I could play college football. And when you grow up 10, 15 minutes away from Ohio State, that's kind of like the only thing that you want to do growing up as a kid. And so, football obviously at that time was the best sport that I probably was athletically ready for. And Ohio State being 10, 12 minutes down the road, that's who I wanted to play for. And that was a goal. And so, I'm sure your dad would tell you this, when you're from Ohio and you're a young kid growing up, you wore scarlet and gray every weekend, especially during football season. And that was kind of like a goal for a lot of kids to go do. And so that was one of mine. And it became possible my senior season, my senior year, while I was playing football in the spring, when I was given a chance to walk on at Ohio State.
And then in high school, just out of curiosity, you played wide receiver, but did you play any other positions?
I did. I played safety, and I played a little bit of corner throughout high school, but I primarily played wideout and then safety my senior year.
Okay. And then also, when you did make Ohio State, but then you transferred to Iowa. Tell me a little bit about that transition you had.
Yeah, I actually, I really, long story short, I just really physically developed over 2 years when I was at Ohio State. I went from being a real skinny, scrawny looking kid, really, really thin, wasn't really that big, wasn't really that fast. But, statistically, it was, like I said, in high school, it was happening. But I just didn't have that, coming out of high school. And 2 years later, I developed it through, working hard, weightlifting, got into a weight program, got in where I was eating regularly every day. And so I physically developed. I became the third fastest kid on the team at Ohio State after my second year and broke some records in regards to my quickness. And so I just felt like it was an opportunity to get a scholarship. And at that time, Ohio State wasn't ready to give me one. And at that time, Connor, to be honest with you, I just my goal then became to play in the NFL. and it wasn't really to play at Ohio State anymore like it was when I was growing up, because I wanted to kind of have, I had bigger goals then. And so I got a phone call to go to Northern Iowa and play football there, and got offered a full scholarship to play football and to start right away. And I couldn't pass that up. And I just wanted to keep playing the game. And so I went off and headed to Northern Iowa.
So, Coach, you had no award and you didn't get a D1 scholarship, and then you didn't get drafted. Was there ever a point throughout that period of time where you thought football wasn't for you?
Yeah, it's really crazy, not to mention any accolades, but when you're a 3-time All-American in college, you kind of think that you might have a chance to be in the NFL. And, it didn't happen. It was kind of like coming out of high school again, where nobody really wanted you in regards to Division I. So you had to go walk on. And now I'm entering in the NFL draft, and nobody ended up drafting me. And fortunately, I was fortunate enough before the draft was over to have about 10 or 12 teams that I got a chance to select from that I could go to as a free agent. And but I don't think the road bumps or not being drafted or walking on and all those things, it just never, I think that always made me tougher. It always I guess the good Lord puts you through experiences in your life to kind of build you up, to make you a stronger person, to put you through those trials, those tribulations like the Bible talks about, so that you can become one of his warriors, or you can become one of his men. And I just always felt like that. And so I just kind of took all the things that I might have wanted that didn't come true, and there was a different path laid out for me. I just kind of took that path thinking that this is what this was God's will. And that's what I was going to do full bore, and kind of worked out.
So you signed with the Colts after the draft, correct?
I did. My first quarterback, Connor, first guy I ever caught a ball from in the NFL was Peyton Manning.
It's pretty awesome.
Crazy.
That's pretty neat.
So moving on a little bit past Indianapolis, you signed with the New York Dragons, or in the Arena Football League, or AFL, and that's where you met Matt Nagy, future boss. Tell me a little bit about that relationship you guys built, because you guys were also roommates, correct?
Yeah, it was really weird. I was, once I got released from the Indianapolis Colts, I spent a year in the XFL with Vince McMahon, played in Las Vegas, and then that season was over. I went home, started building homes. I framed homes in the off season, and I went back and was framing some homes, and got a chance to go to play arena ball in New York. Arena at that time, the New York Dragons at that time had just moved to New York. They were actually, their original home was in Iowa, the Iowa Barnstormers. And so Kurt Warner played for them when I was in college. And then they moved, when Kurt went into the St. Louis Rams, the Iowa Barnstormers moved to New York Dragons. And so they called, and I ended up going out there. And then my second year out there, we needed a backup quarterback, and I had a room available in my house, and they called and said, "Hey, we got a backup quarterback coming in. His name's Matt Nagy." And so, it was kind of weird, because I was the guy at that time, and he was the backup quarterback. And so, obviously some great stories, but obviously, one valuable lesson that I've always learned in life is you better treat you better treat the same people. You better treat all people the same. Because the same people, the people that you meet on the way up are going to be the same people that you meet on the way back down. And I've always take that to heart, in regards to you never know what life's going to bring in. And, in that situation where I might've been the star player of an arena football team, and the backup quarterback that nobody ever knows, that ever knew about at that time, 15 years later is now the head football coach of the Chicago Bears. So you just never know. That's why you need to treat all people the same. And because you never know where or when you're going to meet those people again, or the relationships that you build with them, or how they perceive you, or how they think of you because of how you treated them. What a valuable lesson. Because obviously when I retired and was trying to get back in the NFL, a good buddy of mine that was a roommate happened to be the head coach of the Chicago Bears, called, and because of those relationships and that trust, that respect that we have for each other, gave me an opportunity to come to Chicago.
Yeah, that's right. You never know who's going to be that guy. So you did eventually sign with the St. Louis Rams. Tell me one difference you noticed right away with the NFL.
Well, I think at that time, to be honest with you, Connor, I had bounced around a couple of training camps. When I showed up to the St. Louis Rams, I really had the confidence that I belonged in the NFL. I had a beautiful wife at the time that I had to start supporting, and a family that we were hoping to have someday soon. And so I think my mindset, my maturity was completely different. My mindset was completely different, and so obviously, that kind of pushed me through the St. Louis and pushed me through the beginning of getting in and starting a career, and ended up having a pretty good career.
In 2003, when you signed with the Rams, who was that one person your first season that kind of took you under their wing and guided you?
Yeah, a lot of people don't really know this, but when I was in the New York Dragons, like I had mentioned to you guys earlier, Kurt Warner played for the Iowa Barnstormers, and so the same administration that was with Kurt in Iowa just moved to New York, and so when I got to New York, these guys called Kurt and said, "Hey, you need to check out this kid down here that's playing for us. He needs to play with you guys on Sundays." And so Kurt Warner actually came out to a game and saw me play, and actually took me back to St. Louis with him. That's kind of how I signed with the St. Louis Rams. And so Kurt was always a guy. I was just talking to him the other day. Kurt's always been that guy, especially in the beginning, that has given me a chance, and then obviously was a great role model and a mentor for me my early years of being in St. Louis.
From 2003 to 2010, what was the most memorable game of your career?
I thought you were going to say what was the most memorable thing. I said I'm looking at her.
Thank you.
But it was obviously, as you know, Michaela, in 2006, our big year in Detroit, we had a lot of great memories and a lot of big games. But the playoff games that you get involved with, the playoff games that we got involved with in St. Louis, the atmosphere, the Connor, you see a regular season game in the NFL, they're pretty crazy, especially when you play in them. But let me tell you what, when you play in a playoff game, it's like there's 22 guys out on the field of a rock concert. I mean, it's crazy. And so those playoff games are really, really awesome to be in. And, in 03, we had a good football team. We had a chance to actually go to the Super Bowl, and we fell a couple games short, but just having that aura and all that excitement and all that stuff, it was pretty sweet.
And then in 2010, when you got your concussion, how did that affect your life?
Well, I think it happened at a good time. I was 30 some years old. So once you hit the big 3-0 in the NFL, you're considered old. And so, it was right on the verge of retirement anyway. So it happened at a good time. And I think it just kind of solidified that it was time to, I've been obviously really fortunate and blessed to be on an unbelievable journey with the football and following the football around from when I was in high school. And, that football has taken my family, our family, all over the country, all over the world, to be honest with you. And so at that time, it was just completely at peace. And the injury just kind of solidified that it was time to retire.
So with all that being said, what made you really want to become a coach after retirement?
That's a great question. My father-in-law was the head football coach at a high school back in Columbus, Ohio, at Jonathan Alder High School. Really my last 4 or 5 years of playing. And, my last 4 out of the 5 years, we were only about 2.5 hours from home. Rather we lived in Detroit or we lived in Cleveland. And so in the off season, Connor, I got a chance to go back home. We had a house back there. And so I got a chance to go back home and started training a lot of kids in the off season. And I really, even though I had 3 or 4 years left to play, I literally had more fun training these kids and then following these kids' careers as they went back to school than I really did on my own, going to play for myself. And so at that time, I really knew I had a passion for helping these kids and wanting to coach these kids. And obviously, not to get into our whole story, but when you play on special teams, when you played and started on defense in the NFL, when you played and started on offense in the NFL, there's a reason why the good Lord's allowed you to do that. And so a lot of that is just the experience, and those experiences you give back to kids, and so I knew before I even retired the last 3 or 4 years that when I retired, my goal was to be a football coach.
You said you started off with, coaching all those kids. Who were, you have any names, some kids that, took that advice from you?
They're all the babysitters of Michaela and her
Oh,
brothers.
really?
Oh my gosh.
That these kids, the Scotty Palmers, the Jesse Contras, the Zach Rabers, Chris Pollocks. I mean, there was a lot of kids that we really got affiliated with that went, that played for my father-in-law and that went on and went to, Zach Page, just tons of kids that actually played the game for him that I really became close with, while I was playing and they were playing. And so, obviously they mean a lot to our family. We trusted them enough to babysit our kids.
Which was not a good choice. It was not good.
Some of
they should have stuck with
some
football.
of them weren't, but no, they were all great kids.
So before you came to the Bears, you were coaching in college. What is your favorite memory from your coaching days at college?
Yeah, obviously, when you get to coach college football, you get a chance to be around kids that are 18, 19, 20, 21 years old that are really just learning how to be, adults, and so the relationships is what's awesome in college. You really have an opportunity, not that you don't hear, but you really have an opportunity to be that father figure and a huge impact in those kids' lives. And so being in college, being able to do that, and then being able to share all the bowl game trips with my family, going on trips with my family to rather it was Washington, D.C. or down to Tampa Bay or, down to Boca Raton. I mean, those bowl game trips, spending a week somewhere with your family around Christmas time, and yet you're preparing for a football game, it's pretty sweet.
So this next question is sort of actually for both of you guys. So I think both of you guys would have good answers.
Oh.
In 2018, when Matt Nagy did call you up, where were both of you guys when that occurred or when it happened?
You want to go first, or do you want me to answer?
Go ahead.
So I just got home from school, and my mom handed me a Bears coach. I thought you meant college, and was like, Michaela, we're moving. And I was like, again? But then I was so happy because I knew that it was a dream of like my dad's to be a coach in the NFL and get to there. So I let his happiness override mine at that moment. And then I was like, let's do this thing.
Yeah, it was, I was sitting in the gym, Connor. I was at my boys' basketball practice, and I was just sitting there watching them practice, and I was just sitting by myself too. And I looked down, my phone was ringing or vibrating or whatnot, and I looked down and said Matt Nagy on it, and so I just picked it up, and so I was at a local elementary sitting in the bleachers by myself watching my boys practice, play basketball, and that's how it happened.
What was the transition like for you from going from a small town school in South Carolina to the Chicago Bears?
Yeah, it probably would be pretty extreme for some people. Obviously, being around the NFL and playing in the NFL for 8 years, or really chasing a dream for 10 to 12 years, but really playing for 8. It was probably made it a little bit easier that we've been around this. This has kind of been our life for so long. I would say it was probably a little bit more different when we walked away from the NFL and went to college instead of coming from college to the NFL. But it's still there's you still pinch yourself every day that the fact that you get to wake up and go coach for this, the historical Chicago Bears. I mean, all the history that comes in and out of this city, the Chicago Bulls, the Cubs, the White Sox, just the sports town it is in general. I mean, this is obviously the largest sports market for one football team, and so it's definitely been great, and it's definitely different than college, but we'll take it for sure.
Now, do you mind walking us through a day in the life, like from when you wake up in the morning to when you fall asleep?
Yeah, so I wake up, try to get up about 4:45 in the morning, and try not to wake my daughter up when I pass her room to head down the steps. And I try to go get a workout in for about 45 minutes in the basement, come back up and grab a little protein shake and some, little, berries or whatnot, grab some breakfast and get in the car and head to work. I try to be at work between 6:15 and 6:30. When I get here, shower up, get ready to go for the day, grab some more breakfast. It's good to eat. And then we're at it, we're at it, from 7 to 9 o'clock or whatever it is in the morning. We're preparing for meetings, getting ready for meetings from 9 o'clock really till 11:15, really till about noon. We're in meetings with our guys. Then we get a little lunch break. And then right after lunch break, about 1 o'clock or so, 1:30, we're on the football field for practice. And so, you get a couple hour practice in. About 4:30 in the afternoon, we're back in meetings again, post-practice meetings, watching practice, going through all that for an hour, and then the guys are really done. We go up, shower up, get ready for our meetings, our staff meetings, and then once our staff meetings are over, we're getting ready for the next day, whatever, whether it's a third down day, red zone day, or whatever it is, we're getting ready for the next day, and so that's continuous there on Wednesday, Thursday, and really Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. Tuesday being where you're really in a lot of meetings, but Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, that's really what we do right there.
So after yesterday's game against Detroit, what was it like for the coaching staff and the players having no fans there?
Yeah, you know what? It was disappointing, I should say, one, because when you walk out in front of 40 or 60,000 people to play a game of football, obviously the electric that's in the air, the electricity that's in the air is just, you can't explain it. You really can't. And so you totally miss that when you walk out. On the other hand, it was actually kind of pretty neat to where the communication between everybody, I didn't have to yell. I'm sure my daughter heard me on TV a little bit.
You
but
yelled.
I didn't have to yell as loud. The guys heard, it was good to communicate. It was really neat because you could hear the defense talking too, or the offense talking. It wasn't like you couldn't hear them anymore because the crowd was covering up. But it was pretty neat from that standpoint. But obviously, I would never trade the game to where you couldn't walk out in front of your fans and all the people that come to support you. And that's the biggest thing right now that we're missing in this game.
Did they have any like artificial noise or anything? Because when it was broadcasted, they would put like crowd noise in or something. Did they have any of that there?
Yeah, from what I know, the crowd noise that you guys heard on TV is we don't hear that. But what they do have in the stadium is they do have noise that they can turn up to a certain decibel that is constant or whatnot as we play. And so, but it's not the up and down or the rising or what you're hearing on TV from what I know.
Yeah, okay. Because it's so weird because the crowd is always at its loudest when you're in the red zone, so it's way easier to communicate, when you don't have that factor.
Yeah, we were talking about this last night with the family, how the what it's doing right now is really taking away the home field advantage, like what you're saying, when it's 4th and 1 in the red zone and the crowd's just going crazy and it's hard to communicate as an offense, and you're on the road and you're trying to get the snap count and all that stuff that's definitely something that's being missed from home teams, on when you're on the road.
Okay, Coach, that's all we have for you today. Thanks for giving us your time and good luck next week against New York. Another thanks to our viewers for coming in today, watching. Thanks for watching. We hope you guys tune in to the next one. Thank you, Coach.
Thank
Sounds
you so
good,
much.
guys. Appreciate it. Thanks, guys. Stay blessed.